Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 231 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week. Starting things off with Richard, the owner of MTG Goldfish. How are you today, Richard?
Hey, Seth, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. We have a lot of interesting topics today, and I'm pretty excited to talk about them. But before we get into it, we also have content creating all-star Krim. How's it going today, Krim?
It goes well. How you doing, Seth?
I'm doing well. Doing super well. So today, we have some really interesting, unique topics. We got some big announcements in the past week, impacting Pauper. Gonna start off with that. Also, Magic Arena, some changes, some updates, some new formats coming in the future. Wanted to talk about that as well. There's a new promo of a Commander staple coming out at GP Vegas in a couple of months. Wanted to mention that. Maybe some modern and B&R stuff if we have time, before, of course, wrapping things up with fish mail. So that's the plan for today. A bunch of different announcements kind of jumping around. So let's jump right into it. And we're starting things off today with a massive announcement regarding the Pauper format. Pauper, if you're not familiar, all commons, has always kind of suffered from this kind of ununiformed format. Basically, it's built on the Magic Online card pool, so if it's a common on Magic Online, it's legal, but if it's a common in paper, it wasn't legal, but then some playgroups use different rules, and it was very confusing. So the announcement this week was, most importantly, unified legality, essentially. Any card that was a common on Magic Online or in the paper world, gonna be legal in Pauper, outside of the ban list, of course. So official support from Wizards as well is actually like a real format. So what do you guys think about this huge Pauper update that kind of came out of the blue?
You missed an important point. So like you said, it's an official tournament now. So you could theoretically play F&M or an actual sanctioned tournament with Pauper going forward. And in addition to these changes, they added 3 cards to the ban list: Hymn to Torok, Sinkhole, and High Tide.
Yeah, so with the change to unified legality, that added 200-ish, I think, cards to the format. So those were all cards that were not in the Pauper format before this announcement, but then they became part of the format because they have common printings in paper. And Wizards decided probably get rid of those right away, which, I mean, I think it's a good choice. I did really want to Sinkhole people. That I think would be super fun. But, I mean, him is pretty busted. High Tide, I don't know exactly how you combo with it in Pauper with all the Storm cards banned, but no one has ever done anything fair with High Tide, so probably no big loss there.
These cards get a bad rap. They're just like, oh, they're so scary. Let's just pre-ban them all, right? Like, why don't you just release them into the wild, see what happens? Like, is Sinkhole really that bad in 2019? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think it feels great.
But you're playing Pauper. There's like so much degenerate old cards you're going to be playing with anyway, right? Like, it's not like it's standard or anything, right? You're playing with cards from 1995. You're going to have weird stuff going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of 3-mana land destruction that is legal, so it's not like standard or something getting Sinkhole. There is a lot of pretty good land destruction in Pauper already. 2 mana is cheap, though. I actually think him would be the most broken of those cards, just because Pauper is super grindy and like card advantage based. You don't have a lot of easy finishers where you're just like, oh, I do my thing and then I like Emrakul you or Grizzlebrand you. It's more this like incremental card advantage, trying to grind out value. Monarchy is really huge in Pauper. Some of the best cards are the cards that make you the Monarch because it draws you an extra card. So I think that him would be pretty busted just as a straight like 2-for-1 on turn 2 that sometimes just mana screws your opponent and gives you a free win if you get lucky.
See, I'm one of the cards I like, cause I never played much Pauper. I started building a Pauper deck, and I was building a blue-black Delver or whatever, and then the bannings happened, and then I kind of stopped building it. But I actually really wanted to play with him, and then when it became a sanctioned format, I was really excited, and then can't play with him. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I can see the argument, I guess, for just like letting things go and then banning them in the future, but I think there's a pretty high likelihood that they would have to be banned anyway. So maybe instead of like having people buy decks build around those cards, it's better just to head it off beforehand.
Oh darn, those like $1 Hymnotorox gonna get banned. But anyway, enough harping on the ban list. What do you guys think about this for Pauper as a whole? So Pauper started on Moto, a ton of community support. It's kind of following the Commander route, where it was initially, it's, you know, not official, but there's just so much support and so many champions pushing the format, and then now it's officially a format. And then maybe we'll have an actual Grand Prix, maybe a Pro Tour, who knows, right? It's a sanctioned format, so everything's on the table now.
I mean, it's a huge step forward for Pauper. Like, unified legality is something that I had been asking for a while, because I just ran into all these issues when I'd even tweet about the format. People being like, oh, why aren't you playing card X, which technically wasn't legal because it wasn't a common on Magic Online. Or they'd be like, oh, why are you able to play like Battle Screech or Chainer's Edict, which are cards that were never printed at common in paper, but they were on Magic Online. So it gets rid of a lot of that confusion. It also, probably the biggest deal is, it actually shows Wizards kind of cares about this format and is listening to the players and noticing that this format's taking off. So I think we're still a long way away from Pauper GP level, but I definitely think having it be a supported format in the Wizards event reporter is going to mean more Pauper events, F&M type events at local game stores, side events at Grand Prix, and if it keeps growing, maybe it'll get to the GP stage eventually, although I think that's still a little ways in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited that there's a new format that you can play now for, like, as you had mentioned, GPs and stuff like that. So this is looking great. I mean, I want to actually pick it back up again and see what I can find at my next F&M.
But Krim, there's no common to fairy. How are you? How do you navigate this format?
It's kind of weird. It's foreign territory. There's no blue planeswalker for me to like champion and get excited about. But I think Counterspell is legal.
Counterspell is definitely legal, and there's like, you can probably find a Teferi card, like Teferi's Curse, or like some
is Disruptive Student
with Teferi in the name.
Disruptive Student, right? Like, I think that's common.
That is a thing. You can Disruptive Student in Pauper. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone actually play Disruptive Student, but it is a legal card.
I'm ready. Put me in, coach.
So Richard, have you ever played Pauper? Like, I've done some Pauper videos, played it on and off depending on how I feel about the metagame. Krim was talking about getting into it. What about you? Do you have any interest in this format? And does this announcement make you more likely to like put together a Pauper deck and try to go to a Pauper event?
No. I mean, a long time ago, I played some Pauper. I played some Mono Black, some Delver, just a couple events here or there. But I don't know, because you got to play like Magic Online to play Pauper, and if I was gonna like play with old cards, I might as well just play Legacy. So I don't know. It's a weird spot, and the big reason I wanted to play Pauper were all the cards that just got banned, right? All the broken blue cards. So like now I'm like, I don't know, if I wanted to play cards which I didn't understand, I could play Momir, right? So I don't know. It's like a weird spot for Pauper. That's why I think they should keep these broken cards like Sinkhole and Him and stuff like that, so it gives you an outlet to play those cards, and there's an advantage to this format aside from being cheap, right? I think that's like the number one driver. But I remember when I looked at Pauper decks, they're not actually that cheap. Like a lot of the old cards are pretty expensive, so I don't know. It's cheaper, but not as cheap as you think it would be.
They're fairly cheap. I'm kind of browsing over the metagame page right now. In the paper world, decks are kind of topping out slightly over $100, and you can get a lot in the like $50 to $70 range. So compared to a modern deck or a legacy deck, they're pretty cheap. But they're still, it's not like they're $10 or something.
Yeah,
like
it's still $100, Seth. Let's put this back into normal people terms, right? It's still $100 for the quote unquote cheap format, right?
I mean, yeah, that is very true, and there's not a ton of overlap with your money. Like, it's not like most of your Pauper cards are going to help you build a modern deck or build a standard deck, because the staples are not really the same. So I don't know. And I guess the concern about Pauper I have is a lot of the staples are old cards, and while like Master Sets, Modern Horizons does allow for reprints, if the format ever did take off, I think you're going to be like looking at $200 Pauper decks or something. And then, is it's still a format people are going to want to play? Like, how much does the cheapness of the format play into people even wanting to play it? If it spikes because it's popular, do people just stop playing and buy a standard deck for the same price or something?
Yeah, but usually because they're commons, the power level is low enough that they can just be reprinted in any master set in the future. You're not going to have this weird thing where like, oh, I don't want to put Thoughtseize into standard or Tarmogoyf into standard or something like that. Like, you can almost always put these cards into the next expansion if you felt like it. So I feel like the format will remain around where it is today, quote unquote cheap at $100.
Except Oubliette. Oubliette can never be reprinted, apparently.
What is Oubliette?
Yeah. Oh, I guess that's true. All these old cards with like weird rules and
yeah, that's why they won't reprint Oubliette. They actually mentioned it is like the text doesn't fit on a modern Magic card. It's basically Grim. It's basically like a black Oblivion Ring, but it's worded in a really weird way where it like also keeps any enchantments on the creature, so when it dies all the enchantments come back too, and it's very just a strange card. But as he's playing like the mono black control deck in Pauper, and it's like almost $40 a copy, $35 a copy.
What?
Yeah. When I think commons and Magic, I think $40.
I think $4, but I mean, I guess like do you see them like making like any Pauper specific sets?
Boy, so I was actually going to ask you guys this too. I think that's one of the big challenges with Pauper. It's a great way to like fill out a Masters set. You can throw in some Pauper cards. I don't know if you can sell Pauper products though, because of the cheap, like people, I was watching the stream where they were going to announce it. And they're like, yeah, that's what people were saying. Like, oh, they're going to announce Pauper Masters and it's going to be awesome. And I was like, who's going to buy a $10 pack of all commons? Like, who is actually going to spend, what price would you buy that at? Would you even buy a $4 pack that was all commons? Like, I don't know how you monetize this.
What if Pauper Masters is half the price of a normal booster pack? It's like $2.
Ooh, that could work.
They would never do that, but
I mean, I think production on that would probably make it not worth, right?
Yeah, I think they do Pauper Masters and things like that in the sense that they just randomly downshift things in sets, right? So in the same way we get just random commander throw-ins in our various expansion sets, we're gonna get that in for Pauper cards in our future sets, where they'll just downshift cards with the intent of bringing them into Pauper, not just for the limited environment.
I guess the other cool possibility is because Pauper decks are often in like the $60, $70 range, they literally could just copy and paste like one of the decks from the metagame page and stick it into a precon and sell it for like $35 or $30 or even $20, and that would probably work. When with Modern, when you have $1,000 deck, you can't really just give people $1,000 worth of cards in a $20, $30 precon. But in Pauper, you could do that. You could take the top 5 decks in the metagame, throw them into precons like the Commander decks, sell them for $20, and it would probably be fine for everyone and be a way to get people into the format. So maybe that direction could happen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So any in a new frame though, they can't do it.
Yeah, they're gonna have to like expand the size of Magic cards so they can reprint Oubliette.
Double-sided, just the rules text goes on the back as well.
So any other Pauper thoughts on this announcement? I think overall my take, it's great for the format. The ban list, definitely up for debate, I guess. I've heard a lot of different things. Some people like it, some people don't like it. But in general, like having one set of rules that everyone's going to be going by and having it officially supported definitely bodes well for Pauper's future. All right, so let's move on. Let's move from Pauper into the world of Magic Arena, where we also got some really big announcements about what's coming up on Arena. So, Richard, why don't you walk us through kind of the nuts and bolts of the big Arena announcement?
All right. They have finally announced it. They have announced Historic, your new Standard Plus format. So when rotation happens, all the cards from Ixalan forward are in Historic. No Amonkhet, no Kaladesh. They've decided not to put those blocks in at this time, but maybe they'll put some in the future. So what do you guys think about this Frontier / Standard Plus format?
I was pretty much, my eyes were wide and I was waiting, smiling, tongue hanging out of my mouth. And then it's just like, I was a little bummed. It's casual. I can't climb a ladder with that. And I don't even mind if it's, the current set, right? Like if it's just this standard, because I definitely don't mind if it's this standard. But people are like, "Oh no, it starts with this current standard." I'm like, "Yeah, right? Isn't that great?" But then I found out I can't climb the ladder, and of course, I don't know if that's gonna stay that way. Hopefully, it changes. That's the only thing I personally think I'd like to change about it. Other than that, I'm interested in seeing how the format shapes out, and shapes up to be like. It could be pretty fun. I just don't. My biggest gripe is that it is not a competitive format, which is what I was hoping to have.
Can you climb the ladder with Wild? Is it a separate ladder? Is
Wild?
it the same ladder? Like what?
It's a separate ladder.
I see.
And I mean, hypothetically, if I played the H word, I definitely thought. At least there was a ladder for me to play. That was fun. I played Wild for a little bit. The idea of going, legendary in Wild and then legend in standard also. I thought that was sweet. I mean, maybe they make some sweet events for it because even Hearthstone did end up making, the H word, made some events for it.
Yeah, I feel like they're starting casual to see if anyone will play this format. And if people will play it, I feel like they'll add ranked. I think they just, it was the same reasoning they gave, way back in the beta, where they're like, we don't want to split the queues because, if there are not enough players, it's going to be super awkward. But I feel like if it's a fun format and people play it, they'll totally add ranked. Just like there was, best of 3, best of 1, and blah, blah, blah. And then eventually they just did what people played.
I feel like because they made this choice, though, it's going to make it so it's not a popular format. I think it's sort of like this weird self-fulfilling prophecy that because there's no ranked play, and in my opinion, because of the card pool as well, not bringing in more sets, I feel like people are not going to play the format, which means it's not going to get a chance to be successful and ever get ranked plays. So I don't know. I was pretty disappointed by the announcement. I feel like Wizards promised that people would have a way to keep playing their cards after rotation. That's something that's been being talked about for a year now, or since last rotation, which happened while we were still in beta, and there was an account wipe, and then we had rotation. But they've been talking about what they're going to do for rotation for a long time now, and I feel like this announcement was the absolute minimum possible that they could do while still technically fulfilling the promise that you can play your cards after rotation. This is what I compare it to on Twitter, and I stand by this, that it's like that big, oh, don't worry about your paper cards rotating, people, because you can always play them on your kitchen table. Don't worry, we're not going to come and, rip your cards out of your hand and throw them in the incinerator. You can play them on your kitchen table. That's fine. So I feel like people are hyped about this maybe being an eventual modern replacement, being Frontier, which people have been wanting, a cheaper modern, a more accessible modern without some of the degeneracy and issues of modern. And I feel like that's not what this format is. This is ultimate filler format. Okay, technically we said you can keep playing your cards, and here you go. Enjoy your casual queue.
Wait, so you guys are both disappointed. So what would change that from disappointment to excitement? Did you want them to backfill some sets so we get, an actual different format, or is just a ranked queue good enough? What would change it from being a meh to oh, this is amazing?
For me, it'd be a ranked queue. And just just an arena, non-rotating format that I can play at a competitive level. I think that'd be fun.
So I think a rank queue is necessary Plus, I thought the minimum would be, the format would be slightly different because of Kaladesh and Amonkhet, and I was like holding out some hope in the back of my mind that maybe like, oh, part of Shadows over Innistrad was programmed, maybe they'll add that in, maybe there's some chance they eventually work back to like Magic Origins or something, like work back a few sets and make it feel a little more modern-y. So I think that's the other thing for me. It needs more sets, and my feeling is still what it's been for a long time. I think this format could be fun eventually, but with it literally being current standard plus one set at rotation, it's not going to feel like modern or even Frontier for several years. So I don't know. My expectation for the format is, why the card pool is so small, it's probably not going to be interesting. I think you get to still play your Esper Control deck with Teferi or go infinite with Nexus of Fate, like, and if that's your thing, that's awesome. But do people really just want to lose to Nexus of Fate and Teferi in a new format for the next couple years until we get more sets?
No to the Nexus part.
Oh, I'd rather lose to Aetherworks Marvel. What are you talking about? Like, I don't know. I think Seth is kind of onto something, that they did the bare minimum to get it working, because they know it's not like a new format, right? Like, it's gonna be this standard. And the problem is, if they put the older sets back in, they need some way for you to earn those cards. And that was probably like too complicated. So my guess is, like, next year we'll see these older sets come back, and they'll have some mechanism for you to actually earn these older cards. Because if, where are your Amonkhet cards, right? You have none. You have to actually start wasting all your wild cards. That's not fun, right? So they got to figure out some way for you to earn these cards, but then new players don't want these cards because they're trying to play standard. And then my ultimate thought on this is, like, they don't want you to play this old format, right? Like, just like they don't want you to play Legacy. Like, yeah, technically you can play Legacy. They want you to play standard so that on every set release, you put down the money, you buy the gems, you get the new cards. Otherwise, your standard deck sucks, right? But if you have Aetherworks Marvel or whatever, the best deck of all time in Historic, right? You can just keep playing that forever. You don't need to spend an additional cent on the game, which is not what they really want, right? They want you to keep getting new cards with the new sets.
That's a really good and I think very true point, that Wizards is incentivized to like have people keep buying standard cards, and that's probably a reason why the format is kind of casual only. Like, imagine if you could buy your whatever historic deck, your modern equivalent deck that you can play for a bunch of years, and use that to qualify for Mythic Championships and do all the stuff that they want you to be buying new standard cards to be able to do. Like, that would probably cut into their bottom line. Like, some people would just build their one historic deck and grind that forever up to Mythic, and Wizards wouldn't get any money out of them. So, Do you think the format will get better in the future? Like, do you think this is what Historic is, starting at Ixalan? It'll slowly grow as more sets come out? Or do you think there is a chance that in the future we do get a rank queue, or we do get at least backfilled through Kaladesh, which we know is already programmed, or maybe further than that if we get lucky? Like, how set in stone do you think this is? Is this a test run to make sure it's up by rotation, or is this their design of this format?
I think it's test run.
I mean, I don't know. They're going to add more sets. It's going to change with every set added, right? But this is it. It's Frontier in the sense that it's this format, and when it first comes out, people will be hyped, and then if the metagame is solved and boring, then people will just discard it. So it's going to depend on what it actually looks like when, more sets come out and it looks different from standard. Because currently it's just standard.
So what do you think for the immediate future? Like, with it being what it is, without a rank queue, with only current standard sets plus the fall set, like, is this going to be a popular format, or is this just kind of a filler format?
Not without ranked. Like, you're not incentivized to play this at all, right? Like, yeah, you have your old deck and you can play, but I mean, I guess you could have just like direct challenged your friends this entire time too, right? So without ranked, there's like nothing to grind, so there's no reason to play this, and we've been playing this format for the last 6 months or whatever. So, like, this is not new. So, I don't know, right? At least with Frontier, you had the initial rush of, like, Brewer's Paradise, right? With this format, you're like, oh, okay, Teferi, Nexus of Fate. What else is there to do? Like, it's kind of solved. So, I think we got to wait for, after rotation, when a new set comes out, then you actually have, a format that we've never seen before.
Yeah. I think it could be fun eventually, but personally I'm looking like a year or two down the road when we at least have like double standard or something. I think even when the fall set comes out, it's hard for me to imagine the best decks from current standard are just not going to be good enough for historic, which is current standard plus a single set. So I think people want to get away from that. Like, so many people are looking ahead to rotation and standard changing. I just don't know if people are going to be like, oh, okay, I'll play this historic format, which is the exact standard I've been waiting to get out of with rotation.
Why would you want to leave this standard?
Krim is going to be the biggest supporter of historic. He's going to single-handedly keep
I'm the only person in this queue. You guys experiencing these 72-minute waits? I'm just trying to rush into my next mirror match.
All right. So there's more to this announcement. So we are getting mastery trees. So today is the early access. Tomorrow is the actual release, of course, at 2020 for everyone. And then with it, we're getting a mastery system where it's replacing your weekly rewards. So now you have this like RPG grid. You put spheres in them and you gain rewards. And you can actually buy a different board. So every set will come with a board. And then now you can buy a different board for 3,400 gems, I believe, and 5,400 gems. And it comes with a cat. So you now have a pet that's on the battlefield. And it sits there and does stuff. And I don't know what it does because I don't have early access, but there's a cat in the game.
It doesn't do much. It just kind of sits there and, like, I think it kind of licks itself occasionally,
can you
like
click
cats
on
do.
It? Can you, like, interact with it?
I did not try clicking on it. Maybe I should have tried that.
Yeah. So now you have a cat, and now you have a mastery board, and from the breakdown on Reddit that I read, it seems like it's worth it to buy the mastery boards if you're actually going to play through them, because essentially the board gives you like gold, gems, wild cards, packs, some skins, and some stuff like that. So that's happening. And then London Mulligan is coming. It's Magic Arena.
That will be in effect starting tomorrow, I believe, because it's in effect right now on the early access thing that has London Mulligan.
And the last thing which I'm excited for is Ranked Draft will always have the latest set available. So you can always draft the latest set, and then they'll also have like a rotating schedule for an additional set.
So the mastery thing, I think that it's hopefully a good thing. I've seen like some mixed numbers. I think it mostly makes up for what you lose in terms of the packs you get for your weekly thing. I'm not sure if I'm understanding this right. Is it based on each day playing enough to hit your rewards? Like, I think that's one of the criticisms I've been seeing is like, if you don't play every single day, this is going to be bad for you, compared to the old system, if you're just someone who, like, plays a bunch on the weekend but can't play during the weekdays. So I think it'll probably depend on how you actually interact with Magic Arena, if you're someone that's playing a couple hours every day compared to doing all your playing in 8 hours on the weekend. I do really like that it's, like, retroactive, though, apparently, where you don't have to buy it ahead of time, but you can like see how much progression you're making and then choose to buy it, and your rewards will like backfill.
Yeah, you can buy it 2 weeks later and then back. It's kind of like the new player experience. If you just go to the board today, it just gets backfilled with all the stuff you've earned already. But yeah, I've heard the daily rewards issue, and I really hate that stuff. Like, I don't know. I'm old. I'm a dinosaur. I don't believe in these like daily rewards, right? Like, I like to play in bursts. I like to sit down and play for 12 hours and then like that's it, right? I don't like coming in every day and playing for 30 minutes. But all the games push you to do that. It's like addictive behavior and blah blah blah, makes them more money, but like, oh, it's just so agitating because if I sit down and play for 12 hours, I basically waste like 10 hours of rewards, right? Because you get the first 2 hours, you claim all your rewards, and then there's nothing. But that's just me. But I think just overall, I think it just makes it more fun. And I think importantly, it gives you a sense of progression, right? You can actually see what's going to happen and, you can get your rewards lined up that way. But I think overall, it's supposed to be better for players. But we'll see when the math comes out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm looking at it right now, and it sounds like if you spend the gems to buy the pass, it goes up to level 100, but I'm not exactly sure how you get there. People on Reddit are like calculating the number of days in a season because it goes from set release to set release, and there's only like 84 days, so you kind of like max out at 84 unless you somehow like play special events maybe to hit the missing levels. So it's a little
more gems. The answer must be you pay more gems.
You can pay 250 gems for a level apparently. So maybe like you just have to pay more gems to hit the last levels. So I think, yeah, I don't know. I wish it was weekly. If it was like, if you could do it all in bursts, like Richard was saying, I would be a lot more hyped. The way I interact with Arena is definitely not to play it for 3 wins each day to like hit my rewards. I'll play like 6 hours one day, and then I'll play no hours for the next 2 days because I'm playing like Modern on Magic online or whatever, and then I'll play 6 hours again the next day. And for me, I don't think I'll progress enough to make it worth spending the money, even though I think it's a really cool idea.
How is it that you do Magic as a full-time living, Seth, and play 1 million hours, yet you cannot hit this? That's like weird. And you know what the problem is? The problem is they're copying the mobile game model when this is not a mobile game. Like, if it was play 30 minutes a day and I had a 30-minute commute on a train, I'm like, yeah, I'll just open my phone, play a game, get my rewards, be done with it. Except we can't play on our phones. So you actually need to carve out some time at home at the computer and get like a 30-minute, 1-hour chunk to do your quests.
Unless they're hinting at a mobile game.
Yes.
Please?
I've also heard just from my stream chat that especially free-to-play players aren't a big fan of wins being necessary for completing quests. I've had some people like, I've tried to play this for free. I keep running into these like really good decks. It's really hard for me to even hit 3 wins a day. Like it takes me 10, 15 matches to hit my 3 wins because I lose so much. So maybe like having it be less win-based and more just like achieving non-win-based quests would help some of those players. Like I think incentivizing people to play is good, but I'm not sure that incentivizing wins in specific is best for all players.
Well, you're supposed to get pissed off and then buy $100 in gems to get some mythics to show them, right?
That is probably
probably, you know, when you play Candy Crush or whatever and you're at the high level, you're like, this is like literally impossible, right? Like it's so difficult that you want to ease the misery by buying some power-ups or whatever, but like that's exactly what they want you to do.
I had a really eye-opening experience. I was like, they added these new features to Twitch where you can sort by like least views, most views, recommended based on different games. So I sorted Magic based on the reverse of what I normally see, which is the people with the most views, and was like just jumping around to streams that had like 0 viewers, 1 viewers, and they had someone who I think was very new to the game. They were playing, they lost to a Boros Feather deck, and then they're like, oh, I wonder what white-red cards I have in my collection, and they're just like started scrolling through their collection and trying to find Boros cards to build a deck around. And I was like, wow, I forget that that's how so many people interact with Arena, because I'm just so like, oh, I have this deck I want to build, I have all the cards, I put it in, I play like a league, but so many people play it so differently than I play it, or I would assume most like enfranchised Magic players play it. And I think that maybe the system is not as good for those players as it is for the more enfranchised players.
Playing as Richard Garfield intended. No net decking, no prior knowledge, just building with what you have and using the random cards you open. It's a very difficult task because you then play against the guy with the full out tuned to fairy deck and you're like, this is not working as well. My 10 minutes of creativity and research does not beat the thousands of hours of combined community attempts to tune this deck. What do I do?
So, Krim, will you personally be buying the Mastery Pass? Like, do you think the way you play Arena will match up with, like, getting close to maxing out with whatever level you can get to, 184, or whatever it ends up being?
You see, Seth, I just want to have the cat.
Yeah. The question, can you get the cat for free or no? You have to pay, right?
I think so.
I think it's part of the
Therefore, a
Mastery
lot of
Pass,
people will
yeah.
buy this because you want the cat.
You already know I love the idea of like a, kind of like these cosmetics that you can buy in game. I like almost all my cards have the panoramic thing. All like, you know what I mean? Like everything is fancy, right? But it's just yeah, I would buy this stuff only because like of the things like a cat, something that, doesn't actually affect my gameplay in any way, shape or form, but just is fun to have.
It improves the mental.
Yes. As long as my mental psyche is good and
Lesser
solid.
people would quit when they have Teferi emblems on them, but you see the cat and he's cheering you on. You're like, no,
we can win this.
We can win this. Wait, can your opponent see your cat or no? They can't, right? There's only one cat on the board and it's yours.
Maybe, or maybe they'll have two cats.
You need to be able to flex on people.
No, you can see your opponent's cat
You
as
can
well.
see your
You need
cat.
to flex on people.
Yeah. They like face off to each other on opposite sides of the battlefield if you both have one.
What I want is a cat that makes like snarky like BM remarks to your opponent, and you're like, "Look, it's not me, it's
Good
the
game.
cat." Right? They're like, nice draw. Are you mana screwed? Mull to 4, lols. And like, it's not me, it's the cat. Like, what do you want me to do? I'm sorry.
That's how they could finally implement chat in Arena. You just like type and the cat says it. that would probably
weird.
be
This
a bad
cat is just
idea,
going
but-
off.
All right, so last bit of stuff before we get to fish mail. Couple of things real quick. First, there was an announcement of a promo that it was on the stream this weekend. They actually had a Twitch stream for the GP. It is a promo of Soul Ring, which I know you can get at GP Vegas. That's what it said on the stream. Twitter is saying that you can get it other places as well, although I'm not exactly sure how they're being given out, but it's basically a GP promo Soul Ring that has something to do with Vegas, but will be at other places that I haven't seen an actual listing of them yet. So, what do you guys think of this promo?
Useless. It's not playable. It's banned in our format.
You guys don't put in your deck?
So I don't know. I think it's a pretty good card. Like everyone needs it, but also everyone has it. So I think it's a good card for being a promo because you can upgrade it. Because like every commander deck ever made has this card in it, and there are a lot of commander players. The real question is, which we don't know the answer to, how many of these are they printing? Like how expensive will this card be? Because every commander player will want it, and we know there are a lot of commander players.
I could see it being expensive in the beginning, but after a certain point, it probably will drop like all the promos do, right? Because is this just going to be exclusively for the Vegas side events?
Okay, so
or EDH events?
I'm reading on Reddit now. It's starting at GP Vegas, but it will be available at Commander events at other Magic Fests in 2019 and also other places in 2020, according to Gavin.
At other places.
That's what it says, and some
Wow.
other places in 2020. So I don't know
so
exactly
you
what that
only
means,
get this when you enter commander side events at Magic Fest? This is not a Grand Prix entry promo?
It looks
Or
like this
from what I
is
read.
specifically for playing in Commander events at Magic Fest, starting with GP Vegas.
Oh,
That's
you
that's
gotta
the,
actually play commander events at a GP.
that's what
gonna
it
be
looks
hard. So there won't be that many of these, right?
Yeah, I mean, probably relatively low supply, and it looks really cool. I think it's a sharp promo, and there's foil and non-foil, so depending on your taste. So maybe it'll end up being kind of expensive, at least, like Krim said, for the near future. If it's going on for an entire year at different events, maybe the supply will get up there eventually. But the other funny thing is, I don't know if you saw their stream where they announced it. They showed the back of the card, and it had 6 colors rather than 5 on the back of a Magic card, and people started.
Wait, what?
You mean like the dots of colors?
Yes, the dots showed 6
was it
different
purple?
colors.
What color was it?
Yes, there was a purple dot, and people started freaking out and were like, "Oh my goodness, they're adding another color to Magic!" And they had to clarify that Apparently, Channel Fireball just Google searched for Magic Card Back high resolution, and it was like a mock-up that someone had made of if they added another color to Magic. So there was this big uproar, and it ended up just being like an error based on their Google search.
Well, I noticed that Channel Fireball printed out a card back. Oh, because it was like an artist proof or something.
It was like on a PowerPoint presentation on the stream where they like announced the promo and they showed the back of it too.
Interesting.
It was Vince.
It probably was Vince's fault. Yes.
He got angry at how much better my beard is.
All right, so one last topic before we get to fish mail. We just had a big Modern tournament, and we don't have time to like go into all the results or anything. The thing I want to ask you is B&R is next Monday. When we cast next Monday, we will have had our next B&R announcement. There is a Modern Mythic Championship the end of the month. Are you expecting any changes? Give me your quick B&R prediction, and then we can see next Monday how we did with our predictions.
0 changes.
Modern is in a healthy place, and no changes.
I say they ban something from the Hogak deck.
No, they're gonna let it run rampant so you have a fresh event for the Pro Tour. Right? Wouldn't it be a cool story for new players? Like, oh, look, there's this new Hogak deck, and go and buy Modern Horizons, and you can play this deck too. If they ban it, it'll be like, okay, Tron won. Whoop-de-doo.
I guess I mostly wanted to not also say no changes. I think probably it's realistic that they don't do anything and wait till after the Pro Tour, especially because we're also getting London Mulligans like this coming week, and see how that really changes the format, because so far there's been pretty minimal data on that. So maybe the combination of wanting to sell Modern Horizons packs with Hogak in them and also London Mulligan means they just wait. But I do think things are going to have to be banned. Like,
okay, wait. Hold on. Let me check the price of Stoneforge Mystic. Hold on. This is a great indicator. It's stable.
You actually
it didn't spike. No one cares about Stoneforge Mystic being unbanned.
Or maybe so many people already bought it, thinking it would be unbanned.
People finally realize that this card will do absolutely nothing.
But like, do you think anything will actually get unbanned?
I was gonna say Stoneforge Mystic has a shot of being unbanned. Like, I don't think it's gonna change anything, and it would, again, spice up their Pro Tour if they wanted to. Are there any other cards that are safe to unban?
I mean, based on current Modern format, I think that something like Birthing Pod or Splinter Twin is way less degenerate than most of what I play against in Modern at this point. Like, Twin doesn't even scare me anymore when you're in a world of so many fast stacks with London Mulligans. I don't think they'll actually do it, but I think it would be relatively safe compared to what's going on now.
I think I'd like to see Twin. Pod is a little scary. Pod is scary, but Twin is fine.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, fingers crossed. Either way, it's going to be an interesting tournament. We haven't had too many big tournaments, and while Hogak was very prevalent this weekend, it wasn't super outside the lines as far as, especially the individual tournament. The metagame at the SCG was really wonky. It was like almost 35% Phoenix and like 25% Hogak, and that's off the charts for meta. But it was a team tournament, which kind of skews things. At the individual GP, I think Hogak was like 18%, which is really high for Modern, when decks normally really top out at like 10%.
Are you trying to make Hogak seem fair here? That's really high.
I thought it might be worse. I thought it might be worse at 18%, honestly. So it is very high for Modern, but I was thinking it might actually be even worse than that.
I haven't played Modern in 2 weeks. Have people figured out a way to beat Hogak yet, or no? Is it still
good? You play blue white. it won, right? It won Dallas.
Yeah, I think blue white did actually beat Hogak in the finals, so maybe that's a way to beat it. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what actually happens.
He really is the hero of Dominaria. Wow.
Oh, what a fairy saves another day. Like,
yep, a thankless job. So many people yelling at him, but he does his job so well.
All All right, Richard, let's answer some fish mail.
All right. If you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail on Twitter, and we'll get to your questions on air. So, first question from Daniel. Longtime listener, love the show. The cycle to work is so much better with you guys and Masters of Modern. Would love to see some Tier 1 competitive EDH on Commander Clash at some point, like Kess Twin Doomsday, for example. And when is Crim going to do Teferi Tribal League in Modern?
Don't I do that? I think I do that every day, actually. I should just make Teferi Mayhem the best series in the world.
Yep.
And for Commander Clash, we've done competitive weeks in the past, so I'm sure we will do another one in the future where we play CEDH decks.
Yeah. We need to practice. We never practice it, but...
Yeah, I need to study the primer a little more than 2 minutes before filming.
It's like, how do you combo? What I tutor for? I don't know what to do. Scoop.
What is stacks?
All right. Sean Lee, 1205. If WotC fixed Faithless Looting to make Faithless Rummaging, discard first, then draw, would it be a fair card in Modern?
I mean, it's obviously worse, but I don't think it's as much worse as you might think. Like, I guess there are times when it is clearly worse, but in general, yeah, I think it would still be pretty busted.
I think it hurts the fair decks. People are trying to do fair things, but I don't know, like a Dredge style deck, if they care too much. I mean, they're going to lose some percentage points, because sometimes the card you draw is the card you want to discard. But in general, I think they're fine with it, whereas the fair decks still hurt more, I think.
I don't know about that. Okay, I think you could make it work in a fair deck if you make it a 2/2 and you could exile it from the graveyard, and it would create 2 1/1 elementals, or 1/1 elemental for each non-land card discarded. Ah, yes, Seasoned Pyromancer. I love that card. So
11 Vicious. In the MPL, why not have something like the AFL and the NFL? One spiky league, and one league that advertises new sets by playing new cards. Or just full NFL with 32 teams and use GP seasons for drafting. Sunday Night Magic, Team Fireball versus Team Goldfish. Wait, what is the AFL? Is it just, it's just some alternate league, right?
I think it's just a knockoff.
But it's not like the XFL or anything, right? It's just...
Or do they mean the NFC and AFC? How there's 2 divisions within the NFL.
Are you implying that one is a joke division and one is a spike?
I mean, it would be pretty cool to have, like, I'm in the professional meme department of the MPL, right? Like, that would be pretty cool. But...
Or maybe they're saying AFL is upcoming players and NFL is established.
I think it's just different. I think I would actually really like to see this. They just announced a really cool seeming European tournament where it's kind of this pro-am thing where it's like literal celebrities, not like top tier celebrities, but celebrities.
About football or Magic? Hold on.
This is Magic.
They're esports.
These are celebrities from outside the Magic community. Like I saw one of them, the French one. It was like an Olympian who was actually like competed in the Olympics and won gold medals. And maybe they're more of celebrities if you're from Europe and know who the people are. But playing with a Magic person and doing this tournament, there's no prizes on the line, but it's like, it seems like a really cool event and a cool way to do it. I wish that we had like the MPL for spiky play and you earn your way into it by winning tournaments, and then also had something that ran alongside it that was fun and interesting and more based on showing off like the breadth of the community and how many different awesome people there are that might not be the best players in the world.
But isn't that the community cup and like streamer showdowns and all of that?
I mean, yeah, I guess that's...
Or you don't want to see Magic
it's called the
personalities.
celebrity.
You want to see like Tom
right?
Brady playing some...
I did email Ninja. He has not responded.
No, Ninja won't come. Darn.
I feel like the problem is that that's seeping into like Pro Tours and the MPL. Like, I feel like there's not much separation there. It's hard to tell what is Streamer Showdown and Mythic Invitationals and what is Mythic Championships and MPL, because it's kind of just all like mashed together into invites and stuff that we don't really understand what's going on. So I think a clearer separation between, like, this is our fun promotional stuff, this is whatever, like the best players in the world that won their way here by doing whatever would maybe be beneficial.
Yeah. Wait a minute. No, they do this. They just don't brand it like the Day 9 series, Spellslingers. That's essentially what you want, right? Like random celebrities playing Magic.
Yeah, I think that would.
But I guess it's in like a show format rather than like a tournament or a stream or something like that.
Yeah.
I think more Mythic Invitationals. Like, do more Mythic Invitational type stuff. Or like this new European League with the celebrities. I think stuff like that's really cool. But I don't know if it's best to have that also like mixed into the Mythic Championships, because it kind of muddles what each event is about. Like, it's hard to know, is this a promotional event? Is this supposed to be like the Super Bowl of Magic? Is this supposed to be the Pro-Am of Magic? Things aren't very clear at the moment, because it seems like it's all just mixed together.
All right, next question. Bubba Medic 1. Hello guys, I currently play Elves in Commander and Pauper, and wanting to keep the theme in Modern with a Modern Elf deck using Shaman of the Pack. Is there a version that is viable? Will we ever see Elves in top 8s?
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, I see elf decks all the time.
Yeah, elves.
Yeah. It's green black elves. Yeah. It's not like crazy like, legacy powerful, but it is very good still.
Yeah, there's actually several. Well, I don't see any from like GPs or anything, but there's a bunch of published lists from Magic Online, smaller SCG type tournaments of green black elves. So it's definitely not tier 1, but it is a legitimate Modern deck, and it definitely could spike a GP.
All right, BB Zidane. I have an old Moto account that I haven't logged in for over a year, worth $100. Should I cash out or hope for WotC to have a conversion plan to Arena, which I do play?
I don't see a conversion plan happening.
Yeah, I think that ship has long sailed. If there was a conversion plan, we would have seen it already.
Yeah. It seems like they're going forward with supporting both clients. So if you can really get $100 for your collection and you're not going to play Magic Online anymore, that's a nice chunk of gems on Arena to like get your M20 cards or whatever. So I guess I would just go that direction.
Time to get a mastery tree and get some cats. Colin adding, hey Krim, from 1 to 10, how excited are you to scheming symmetry with Baby Teferi? Richard and Seth, keep Krim honest.
Wait, I mean, I do like the idea of it, right? Like the end of turn, I'm going to go tutor for something. This gets around them playing their spell, but like getting their card before I do. And I just, that's like a 1 mana grab an Ashiok or something like that. And then we mill them. It's a good game. I mean, it sounds like a good time. I don't know if it'll work. I actually might try to do that.
At Saw Speaks, do you love Magic the Gathering enough to get an MTG tattoo? Color Wheel, Blood Moon, Teferi. Oh, thank God Krim is here.
Yeah. Well, funny that you ask, because yes, I have a Grinning Demon tattooed on my forearm, and I'm planning on having a Jace Teferi and like hanging out with Gengar, Haunter, and Ghastly, 3 Pokemon.
Wait, and a single tattoo? Like, how big is this tattoo?
Yeah, it's gonna go up my entire arm.
That's crazy.
Well, okay.
So
and then it's gonna
Gengar,
have yeah. So like Ghastly, Haunter, Gengar would swirl and kind of float around them, and then it would form a purple vortex that would turn into the Japanese crashing wave, which would then have a Squirtle surfing on a Game Boy Color. And this is an idea I kind of thought about.
How big is your arm?
I do a lot of push-ups recently. I've done I think 5. And so there's a lot of canvas, right here.
Are you gonna leave an expansion slot? Like when they print the next Broken Blue Planeswalker, like what are you gonna do?
Face, just over my face. Just actually just over my face.
All right. What is the TBD for this? I need to see pictures.
That once I sit down and get a tattoo artist that does not have a 7-year wait list.
Ooh. when we're in Vegas for GP Vegas, and then we can film it and put it on the YouTube.
There it is.
There it is. We'll just find
somebody for $30.
It'll be fine.
$30 in Vegas. Here we go. No regrets.
I could see myself getting like a blood moon tattoo. I'm not as much of a tattoo guy as Crib, I don't think. I have one tattoo that I got when I was like 18, but I could see a blood moon. What about you, Richard?
This is too committal. I will never get a tattoo, like, ever. Like,
of anything or of magic?
Nothing. Like, how can you be assured that you will enjoy whatever it is you enjoy today 10, 20, 30 years from now? I have no faith in myself to do that, so I cannot get a tattoo.
You may not, but it represents a point in your life.
That's actually my theory too, basically.
Well,
like,
I have a
won't
photograph
like it, but it
that I
reminds
keep
me.
on my phone. That's fine. This is too committal. Biped 7. If you guys could ban any card in Standard, what would it be? And why is it Teferi Time Raveler?
That is incorrect. It's Nexus of Fate.
Nexus and Big Teferi are already rotating, so I would ban Little Teferi. I mean, I'm not calling for a ban or anything, but if I had to choose something, it would probably be Little Teferi.
Over the new Triceratops?
Yeah, yes, I think sifting Ceratops is fine for the time being. Or maybe like
unreasonable.
Maybe a red card, like Fanatical Firebrand. I do hate losing to the red deck.
But isn't that because you play a bunch of spicy decks?
I just want a dirtle. Leave me alone, Fanatical Firebrand.
All right, next question. Empty car. The Mythic Championships have been doing well thanks to Magic Arena and the boost in coverage, while MPL hasn't taken off. Do we need a weekly league, and would it be better to concentrate on fewer, higher profile events, Dota majors instead of League of Legends?
I think the MPL just suffers from the fact that it's pre-recorded and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it definitely does suffer from that. I'm not sure what the demand would be in like the perfect world if it wasn't pre-recorded, but it would definitely be better, I think, or at least improved over where it is now. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do next year with the MPL. I think we're kind of priced into it for this point, at this point for the rest of the year, but next year, who knows? I could see anything from MPL going away completely to major changes to try to improve it and make it more entertaining.
Yeah, maybe it's time to go back to Pro Tours and cut down on the weekly events. I don't know. I feel a part of it is just fatigue. Like, we have so much Magic content to consume nowadays that unless like something special is happening, like, who has time to watch, like, you know, your favorite streamers, the SCG, the Grand Prix, the Pro Tours, this weekly MPL, plus whatever else you watch, right? Like, it seems like a lot. So I don't actually know. And I feel Magic is not the same as like football, where football happens all the time, but every time you watch it, it's fun, I guess. I don't know, but when you I've lost my point.
Mr.
Like,
I
with Magic,
watching
unless
Magic,
they're new
Richard.
decks, like, you don't really care how players play because they all kind of play the same way. Like, there's usually like a correct line, and then you expect them to play it, and that's it. And like, I don't know. It's not as fun as watching League, where the patch is the same and the meta is the same, but you can still watch two players as they outplay each other, or two teams. So maybe having fewer Magic events and highlighting kind of like the uniqueness of the metagame and things like that. But I don't know, because I initially was one that really called for that weekly MPL, like all concentrated in one spot tour, but it hasn't really worked out. It's kind of been meh, and I personally am not interested to watch it, so I don't really know what the problem is.
Just bring back GP coverage. I would be happy with that. At least more than we have now. This weekend, when we had 2 modern tournaments that were available to watch on Twitch, kind of reminded me of how much I kind of miss the good old days when every weekend you could turn on and like watch Legacy or watch Modern or watch a new Standard set. And oh boy, those were the good days.
I want Sunday Legacy.
That was like a year ago. That wasn't that far.
Sunday Legacy made stores so much money because I was like, oh, let's play Legacy. Then I bought so many Legacy cards. Whereas now there's like nothing to entice me to buy Magic cards. So Maybe we get Sunday Pauper now.
Ooh.
I think my entire shift for buying Magic cards is just moved to digital.
Well,
You gotta
Krim
get
is
those
easy.
cats.
Just get the cats.
Yeah, cats. Yo, is that a cat on there? Put a corgi on that, and I'm in.
It's like Teferi with like a blue robe, a red robe.
Yeah,
A pink
that's
robe.
adorable. Oh, Tekorgi? Come on, come on, come on! A temporal dog.
I wonder, Krim, what is your upper limit for paying? If they gave you temporal dog, how much money would it be before you're like, it's too much?
What do you mean? That doesn't even make sense to me. What is
Would you
too
pay
much?
$100?
I'll tell him, here you go. Here's my credit card number. you charge the limit that needs to happen. I mean, come on, that would be so cute. I would super want one. I mean, 90% of the time my dog sits on my lap while we film podcasts.
I think we'll get a corgi eventually. We have a cat.
I think I'm just too cheap for Arena. It takes a lot for me to like buy a 500 gold like stained glass planeswalker. Like, do I really need this stained glass Tameo? I'll think about it. Maybe next week. Let me see if I can earn some more gold.
But don't you know, Seth? It plays better. It's like the foil argument in favor. It plays better.
The extent of my blinging out is shelling out for the 50-cent lands instead of using the freebie lands. that is it. Actually, that's not true. I do pay more money to have matching cards. So, like, if I have, like, 3, like, old Bobs or something and I need another Bob, it has to be the old one. I can't just buy the new cheap one. That's just wrong.
Oh, Richard. You already know for a fact that is not true for me.
Yes,
I mix and match all my cards. I go out of my ways to mix and match all of them. I have one of each duress. I do it on Arena too. My chat goes crazy. They're like, wait, what? It's bothering you.
There should be an option in Arena to force all of your opponent's cards to be the same. Just to override their choice of cards, and then just choose the same art.
I mix and match everything. It's great.
And it works. See, I get tilted, Krim gets 5 percentage points and rolls me, and I'm like, it's all because of these stupid mismatched cards. I spent all this time coming up with reasons why they're dumb instead of focusing on playing, and I lost.
Played his white-bordered Japanese watery grave.
All right, that's all our fish meal for this week. Thank you to everyone who sent them in. If you have questions, send them to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I think that brings us to the end of episode 231. Man, almost cut off 100 episodes of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So we will be back next week with whatever's going on in the Magic world, a BNR update, anything else that happens. So, Krim, Richard, thanks for hanging out. It's always fun. Thanks to everyone for listening. And yeah, we'll see you next week. This is the crew signing out.